Born on October 27, 1858 in New York City, Theodore Roosevelt entered the world as a frail child, plagued by severe asthma attacks that often left his family fearing for his life. Despite these challenges, Roosevelt was determined to overcome his physical limitations. Encouraged by his father, he embarked on a rigorous regimen, transforming his body through activities like boxing, hiking, and horseback riding, as well as nurturing his mind, immersing himself in books on a range of diverse subjects. This dual commitment to physical vigor and intellectual growth became a cornerstone of his character. By his early 20s, Roosevelt had authored The Naval War of 1812, a meticulous analysis that garnered great respect among historians and military scholars. In 1883, his passion for the frontier led him to the Badlands of North Dakota, where he embraced the life of a rancher. In 1898, during the Spanish-American War, he organized the Rough Riders, leading them in a courageous charge up Kettle Hill in Cuba, a feat that cemented his national reputation. Ascending to the presidency in 1901 at the age of 42, the youngest in US history, Roosevelt brought his energy to the White House. He championed progressive reforms, expanded national parks, and positioned the United States as a burgeoning global power. Throughout these endeavors, reading remained integral to his life. He was known to read a book a day, even amidst the demands of his presidency, selecting works on history, philosophy, science, and literature to inform his policies and perspectives. So, what exactly was Roosevelt reading? Written in the 8th century BCE, Homer's epic poem reflects the values, warfare, and heroism of ancient Greek society during the Trojan War. Set in the final weeks of the decade-long conflict, the Iliad explores the fierce battles, shifting alliances, and deep emotions that drive mortal men. Roosevelt first read the Iliad as a teenager in the 1870s, and it stayed with him for the rest of his life. He read it repeatedly, sometimes in English, sometimes in Greek. Achilles, Hector, the clash of warriors and ideals, it all spoke to his belief in struggle, duty, and living with purpose. To Roosevelt, the themes of the Iliad weren't just abstractions. They were rooted in the very fabric of reality. He carried them into politics, into battle, into all areas of his life. First published in 1789, Gilbert White's The Natural History of Selborne is a landmark work in natural history, blending scientific observation with personal reflection. Through letters and journal entries, White meticulously records the flora, fauna, and seasonal changes of his native Hampshire, pioneering the study of ecology and emphasizing the interconnectedness of the natural world. White's detailed observations resonated deeply with Roosevelt, who shared a lifelong passion for the study and conservation of wildlife. His own explorations from the North Dakota Badlands to the African savanna reflected the same spirit of curiosity and respect for nature. The natural history of Selborne reinforced his belief in the value of close, patient study of the environment, an attitude that shaped his conservation policies and efforts to preserve America's wilderness for future generations. Written in 1513 and published posthumously in 1532, Niccolo Machiavelli's The Prince is a pragmatic analysis of power, statecraft, and political leadership. Drawing from historical examples, Machiavelli argues that rulers must be willing to act decisively, sometimes ruthlessly, to maintain stability and secure their authority. The book remains one of the most influential works on political strategy and governance. Roosevelt approached The Prince with both interest and skepticism. While he appreciated its insights into leadership and realpolitik, he rejected its more cynical view of power. For him, leadership required both strength and moral responsibility, qualities he believed Machiavelli undervalued. Still, Roosevelt understood that political life was often harsh, and he recognized The Prince as a valuable study in the practical realities of governance, even as he sought to temper its lessons with his own ideals of duty and national service. Written between 1787 and 1788, The Federalist Papers is a collection of essays by Alexander Hamilton, James Madison, and John Jay, arguing for the ratification of the US Constitution. Addressing issues of governance, federalism, and checks and balances, the essays provide a detailed defense of the constitutional framework and the necessity of a strong but limited central government. Roosevelt saw the Federalist Papers as essential reading for anyone engaged in public service. Its arguments on executive power, national unity, and the balance between authority and liberty shaped his views on leadership and governance. As president, he often cited Hamilton's vision of a vigorous executive, believing that national progress required bold action within constitutional bounds. For Roosevelt, these essays were not just historical documents, but a living guide to responsible and energetic government. Compiled in the late 1st and early 2nd century CE, Plutarch's Lives examines the character and leadership of great figures from Greek and Roman history. Presented in paired biographies, the work explores the virtues and flaws of statesmen, generals, and rulers, offering reflections on morality, governance, and the qualities that define greatness. Roosevelt often turned to Lives as a guide to leadership, drawing lessons from figures like Alexander, Caesar, and Cato. He valued Plutarch's emphasis on character, believing that true statesmanship required both moral strength and decisive action. As a politician, soldier, and reformer, Roosevelt saw in these biographies a model for public service, one that demanded courage, responsibility, and an unwavering sense of duty. Published in 1890, Alfred Thayer Mahan's The Influence of Sea Power Upon History argues that naval dominance is crucial to national strength and global influence. Analysing conflicts from the 17th and 18th centuries, Mahan demonstrates how control of the seas shaped the rise and fall of great powers, emphasising the need for strong naval forces, strategic bases, and commercial shipping to sustain a nation's prosperity. Roosevelt was profoundly influenced by Mahan's work, which reinforced his belief in a powerful modern navy as essential to America's future. As Assistant Secretary of the Navy, he championed naval expansion, helping to lay the groundwork for the United States' emergence as a global power. Mahan's ideas shaped Roosevelt's approach to foreign policy, from the Great White Fleet to the construction of the Panama Canal, underscoring his conviction that maritime strength was inseparable from national greatness. Privately printed in 1907 and published more widely in 1918, The Education of Henry Adams is a reflective autobiography chronicling the disorientation of a man raised in the ideals of the 19th century as he confronts the upheavals of the modern age. Blending personal narrative with philosophical inquiry, Adams contrasts classical education with the accelerating forces of industrial and technological change, questioning whether traditional forms of learning can prepare one for the complexities of modern life. To Roosevelt, Adams represented both a kindred spirit and a sharp contrast. They shared a background rooted in elite American families and a fascination with history, but diverged in temperament and outlook. While Adams was introspective and skeptical, Roosevelt favored action and direct engagement with the world. Yet, The Education offered Roosevelt a thoughtful counterpoint, a meditation on the limits of knowledge and the weight of historical legacy in an era of rapid transformation. First published in two parts in 1605 and 1615, Miguel de Cervantes' Don Quixote is often regarded as the first modern novel. It follows the misadventures of an aging nobleman who, inspired by tales of chivalry, sets out as a self-styled knight to defend the helpless and right-imagined wrongs. Blending satire with genuine pathos, the novel explores the tension between idealism and reality, the absurdity of outdated codes, and the enduring human need for purpose. Cervantes' work held a particular appeal for Roosevelt, who was drawn to its themes of courage and conviction, even when misguided. While Roosevelt's own pursuits were grounded in realpolitik and reform, he admired Quixote's refusal to surrender to cynicism or passivity. The novel served as both a caution and a challenge, reminding him that the pursuit of noble causes must be tempered by realism, but never abandoned for fear of failure or ridicule. Written intermittently between 1771 and 1790, the autobiography of Benjamin Franklin offers a personal account of Franklin's rise from modest beginnings to international prominence as a printer, inventor, and statesman. With an emphasis on self-improvement, industry, and civic responsibility, Franklin outlines his philosophy for success and his belief in the value of education, moral discipline, and public service. Franklin's life and outlook made a lasting impression on Roosevelt, who viewed him as a model of the self-made American. The autobiography's blend of practicality and idealism resonated with Roosevelt's own ethos, emphasizing discipline, initiative, and an active life in service to others. It was not merely a record of one man's life, but a guidebook for building character and contributing meaningfully to the common good, principles Roosevelt sought to embody throughout his career. Composed during the reign of Augustus, Titus Livius' The History of Rome, or ab urbe condita, traces Rome's development from its legendary founding through its expansion into a Mediterranean power. Livy's narrative blends myth and history, presenting Rome's early heroes, institutions, and military triumphs as moral examples, with a focus on civic virtue, discipline, and the responsibilities of leadership. In Livy's portrayal of Roman character, Roosevelt found enduring lessons on the rise of nations and the qualities that sustained them. He admired the Roman emphasis on duty, sacrifice, and public spirit, virtues he believed were essential to the American experiment. Livy's work offered more than a chronicle of conquest. It served as a meditation on national purpose, reminding Roosevelt that the health of a republic depended as much on moral strength as on military success. Written in the 5th century BCE, Herodotus' Histories is widely considered the foundational work of Western historiography. Covering the rise of the Persian Empire and its clashes with the Greek city-states, the text weaves together political analysis, cultural observations, and first-hand accounts. While often digressive, Herodotus aimed to preserve the memory of great deeds and explain the causes behind historical events, placing human motivations, divine will, and chance in dynamic interplay. The scope and curiosity of the histories appealed to Roosevelt's broad intellectual appetite. He appreciated Herodotus not just as a chronicler of war, but as a keen observer of human nature and institutions. The interplay of culture, ambition, and fate that runs through the work aligned with Roosevelt's own understanding of history as a stage where character and circumstance collide. For him, Herodotus offered more than tales of antiquity. He offered a method for thinking deeply about the forces that shape civilization. Few works of political observation have endured like Alexis de Tocqueville's Democracy in America, a 2-volume study published in 1835 and 1840. Based on his travels through the United States in the 1830s, Tocqueville's account explores how democracy shapes social relations, institutions, and public life. With clarity and foresight, he reflects on the promises and perils of equality, the importance of civic participation, and the subtle ways democratic societies evolve over time. Rather than treat the book as a relic of its age, Roosevelt viewed Democracy in America as a living analysis of the American character. Tocqueville's emphasis on individual initiative and communal responsibility aligned closely with Roosevelt's belief in participatory democracy. At the same time, the book's warnings about mediocrity and the erosion of independence echoed concerns Roosevelt encountered firsthand. He saw Tocqueville not only as a foreign admirer of America, but as a sharp diagnostician of its civic health, a voice that urged vigilance as much as celebration. Published in 1854, Henry David Thoreau's Walden reflects on the author's 2-year experiment living simply in a cabin near Walden Pond. Combining natural observation, philosophical inquiry, and social critique, the book urges readers to live deliberately, reject material excess, and find meaning through solitude, self-reliance, and a deeper connection with nature. Thoreau's prose shifts between practical detail and transcendental reflection, offering a uniquely American meditation on individual conscience and the natural world. Thoreau's emphasis on simplicity and moral independence spoke to enduring aspects of Roosevelt's character, even if their temperaments diverged. Though Roosevelt favoured action and engagement over retreat, he shared Thoreau's reverence for nature and belief in the formative power of solitude. Walden offered more than a retreat from society. It represented a disciplined pursuit of clarity and purpose, a reminder that strength of character often begins in quiet reflection, far from the crowd. These are just some of the many volumes known to have influenced Roosevelt's character. His library was not assembled casually. It was deliberate, driven by curiosity, discipline, and a belief that serious reading was essential to serious leadership. For those who'd like to access these books, and a more extensive inventory of Roosevelt's reading habits, Greatman's library offers the complete Theodore Roosevelt collection, containing all the known works in Roosevelt's library. They also provide collections based on other historical figures, such as Napoleon, Churchill, and George Washington. You can find the link to these libraries below and in our channel bio.